Well, the war in Ukraine rages on as Russia cuts off gas supplies to Finland after they announced their intentions to join NATO. We will discuss the implications. Primary season has started with some races taking place earlier this week. Still too close to call, in Pennsylvania particularly. We'll have the latest there. And Biden in free fall, with his approval numbers hitting all-time lows amid multiple crises at home and abroad. Can he turn things around? This is Saturday Agenda. And heavy fighting continues in eastern Ukraine. This as several people, including a child, were injured in the city of Lozova after Russian missiles hit a cultural center yesterday. And our correspondent, Sarah Williamson, she's on the ground in Kyiv with the latest. Sarah.
Well, Logan, those attacks just continue today across the country, with reports of explosions being heard here today in Kyiv, also Kharkiv, Rivne, Kherson and Sumy as well. Now, in Kyiv, where I am now, there is absolutely no word of what direction this explosion came from this morning or whether it was ingoing or outgoing. But air raid alarms have been sounding non-stop here throughout the day. But most of the areas that are being hit the hardest are these areas in the east of the country, where phase 2 of Russia's offensive is aimed. Now, I sat down with Alexei Danilov, who is the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, and he's actually the former governor of Luhansk, which is one of those oblasts in the east. So he knows this part of the country very well. I asked him for his assessment on Russia's eastern offensive, and he actually gave me quite an interesting take, partly blaming the US. Let's take a listen.
Well, first of all, I want to say that the war has been continuing there. The war is continuing there for the 9th year. I want to add that since 1994, the Democrats just happened to have difficult moments. In 1994, when the United States took away our nuclear weapons during the days of Bill Clinton's ruling Democrats, they handed the weapon over to the Russians. Now the Russians are attacking our country with the same weapons.
But, Logan, despite that very historical take on the situation, it doesn't take away from the fact that the appreciation that these Ukrainians have and the support that they have for what the US has done for them so far, including that legislation that President Biden has now signed, handing over that additional $40 billion in aid that is now going to be coming Ukraine's way.
Well, Sarah, and a quick follow-up for you. We know that the aid that is currently going into Ukraine right now is from past drawdowns. In terms of this $40 billion that was just approved by Congress, what do they think of that aid coming in, and do they think that will allow them to inevitably end this war and keep all of their territory?
Well, I don't think they necessarily think it's going to be enough to end this war. President Zelensky did actually make a call out today saying what will actually end this war is the chance for them to have access to multiple rocket launching systems. So if this $40 billion can be put towards that, and if countries can actually additionally also add to this so they can buy these systems in order to keep in order to defend themselves from the Russians in the east of the country, that specifically is what is going to help them be able to defeat the Russians and win this war, according to President Zelensky and what he said today.
All right, Sarah Williamson, live in Kyiv. Sarah, thank you for your time. And joining me now to discuss the latest is retired Major General Michael McGuire. Thank you for being here, sir. Now, a U.S. official has stated the United States plan to keep 100,000 troops in Europe. Is this a prudent decision?
Well, thanks for having me. And from your previous segment, I think what we're seeing right now in Ukraine is a much more bitter fight in the eastern part. We've been on multiple times and talked about the advantage, if you will, that the Russians have in the eastern part of the country because they share a border. Relative to the 100,000 troops, That seems like a very high troop strength number. I'd have to validate that. But the things that I can tell you are that all of our presence in the NATO countries, including Poland, Germany, and all of the surrounding areas, is a presence that we've had forward. But 100,000 of our folks being there really stretches us thin in an area that I'm most concerned about, which is in China, and the issues that we face there. The longer this thing goes on, and the weaker we look without clear leadership to try to de-escalate this thing and get to a ceasefire quickly, the more countries like China will be emboldened and look at Taiwan.
Now, Russia says it plans to bulk up its military presence on its western borders with NATO. So are we headed toward a larger conflict? And as you mentioned, with the China connection in all this?
Well, you know, it's interesting. There was a comment made in your opening segment there about all this happening in the world and Finland now being cut off because of their move towards NATO for oil and natural gas from Russia. I keep saying we have got to unleash the natural resources of this country. We've got to be able to provide a surplus. You know, Biden claimed that he was going to fix the problem by getting in strategic reserves. I filled up my truck this morning. I'm campaigning 42,000 miles around the great state of Arizona, unseat Mark Kelly. I paid $5.20 a gallon. So if his idea is that this is working here domestically and internationally, it's not. The only way for us to get back out in front is to be energy dominant around the world and cut Putin's economic leverage from these countries out from under him immediately.
Now, General, Russia cut off its gas lines to Finland, as we've discussed. So Russia is isolating itself. Is that too much of the case right now for Putin, or do you think they're going to be able to withstand all of the sanctions, but also the isolation?
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about Russia is Putin had stockpiled a bunch of cash before this started, and I was very concerned in the week leading up to the invasion that he had signed an agreement with China to almost an Axis-like agreement where they were going to continue to do business. And you know, China is such a big part of the world economy as we are. As long as China is doing business with him, he has a lifeline economically. So what we really got to do is be able to provide relief to Western Europe by beginning to export energy, products, and materials that they need and help them embolden their partners there in Ukraine.
In Iran and Cuba, they're also reportedly increasing their relations. Is that something that we should be concerned about, considering the fact that Cuba is about 60 miles away from Florida?
Absolutely. I think any American voter right now that's looking at what we're facing here in Arizona and other states in these competitive primaries to win back control, and in my case, unseat Mark Kelly, they got to consider this. Joe Biden is using the Russians to negotiate a nuclear treaty with Iran. At the same time, he's trying to ask us to send $40 billion and maybe more to a country that is being attacked by the Russians. No wonder their Ukrainian leadership is concerned by the Democrats. American citizens can't figure out what the Democrats are doing in charge.
And what do you think of the situation in Ukraine? Do you think that the Ukrainians could actually accomplish their goal of regaining all of their territory and driving the Russians out, even with this $40 billion shipment coming in? Or do you think, as Sarah said, it's unlikely that could happen?
Well, I don't think the political resolve and the liberties and freedoms they've enjoyed is going to change, but the fight in the East is going to be much different than when we saw Putin overextend himself into the central and western part of the country. I think this could go on for some time. Kind of a trench warfare kind of thing. And that's why I'm calling for people to de-escalate this. But the world is looking for leadership from Biden. This isn't happening, and Putin isn't taking us seriously. So he sees no reason to de-escalate the situation. He knows that he can just make this go for a while. And I don't know how long the Ukrainian people in that area can take being under siege. So they need to try to find a ceasefire quickly and find some diplomatic settlement, because Russia shares a border there. They can shuffle stuff across the border, and they have a much higher percentage of ethnic Russians. I think your lead-in translated interview said, and the guest was right, that area in the Donbass and the Crimea, that war has been going since 2014. They're 9 years into this now.
Well, General McGuire, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your insight, and we'll have you back, obviously, as this all unfolds, because it doesn't seem like this war is ending anytime soon. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.